I've come across a surprising revelation, guys. While after I just finished recording chapter 10, I found this side story. See, the reason I found out was because I noticed that the story has about 2 more chapters to make 30 instead of just 28, and when I checked them out, I discovered that they're just side stories. 2 side stories to be, in fact, as 14 Sleepyhead 09 explains here. I almost completely forgot these little side stories. I recently found them when looking through Word files on my laptop. Anyway, these are a couple of side stories that tell events in White Deer Park during the main story. There was going to be 3, but I'd only written 2 due to lack of inspiration for the third. Think I may have put off uploading because I didn't think they were any good, but here we go anyway. Here's the first one. Side Story 1. Short story to go alongside main story. Takes place during Chapter 5, the day Plucky and Scarlet have been captured by the fox trappers and traveling in the back of their truck. Okay. This is going to be interesting. So, without further ado, let's read Side Story 1. Fox's Fury. He's found out. Alright, since there are 2, here's how this is going to work. The second side story apparently takes place during Chapter 20. So, when we get to Chapter 20 and have finished reading it, or before reading it, or after reading Chapter 20, I will upload the second side story. Since we've passed Chapter 10, with Team Farthing White now assembled, the 7 members are Plucky, Dash, Scarlet, Perry, Bolt, Woody, and Jester, by the way. I believe that now would be a good time to read Side Story 1 after Chapter 10, and Side Story 2 after Chapter 20, when we eventually get past it. So, let's read. It had been 5 days since Plucky and Dash had left White Deer Park, and for those 5 days, everyone had been completely oblivious to the disappearance. It was normal to them as Plucky and Dash often went far afield across the park together, sometimes for days at a time. However, 5 days was a long time, and some of the animals were beginning to worry, apart from the ones who knew where they had gone. Whisper, Charmer, Ranger, and Friendly had told Russet too. They were now finding it hard to keep it secret, and eventually the inevitable day came when the secret was let loose. Pray for everyone, guys. It was mid-morning, and Fox had awoken from a long and deep slumber. He wasn't as young as he once was, but even so he was still full of life, as was his mate Vixen, who still slept soundly next to him. He looked at her lovingly, examining her beautiful form. It was hard to believe they had been together so long, and he nuzzled her lightly, causing her to stir in her sleep. His attention was soon brought to outside, and he decided to get up and go for a wander. Fox ventured out across the park, and was greeted many times by friends as he went, including walking past Toad and Spike playing a round of the mole game with Mossy. Whistler even crashed out of the sky, again, where they shared a brief conversation, and Fox also strolled past Owl and Hollow's roost, yet did not converse with them as they were fast asleep during the day. It was a particularly nice day. The sun was high and warm, but the temperature pleasant. Autumn was setting in, and the leaves on the trees had begun changing to their crisp golden brown color, but still had yet to fall. This was Fox's favorite time of the year. It was this time of the year he and the other animals from Farthing Wood had made their journey to White Deer Park. The same time of the year he had met Vixen. He stopped at times to admire the scenery, and took deep inhales of the clean early autumn air, taking in the multitudes of smells and scents of the woodland. One scent soon took his notice. It was of his daughter-in-law, Whisper. She soon revealed herself walking quite slowly in some sort of inebriated state. It became clear it was from tiredness when she released a long and loud yawn. She hadn't noticed Fox's presence whatsoever. Fox is gonna find out the truth. "Good morning, Whisper," Fox called merrily. "Huh?" Whisper muttered, slightly startled. She turned to look at Fox. "Oh, morning, Fox," she replied, then made another wide yawn. "Well, call it bedtime for me. I've been out all night." "Well, don't let me stop you." Fox said cheerily and began to walk off. Then he remembered he had been meaning to ask Whisper something for the last few days. "Oh, by the way, have you seen Plucky recently?" he asked a little awkwardly. "I haven't seen him in a few days. I imagine he's probably still upset with me." Whisper was barely listening as she was so tired. She quietly murmured, "Who?" "Who?" "Plucky. Your son?" Fox reminded her. "Oh yes, sorry. I'm not thinking straight. I'm so tired." Whisper spoke softly, again with another yawn. "Clearly," Fox murmured, a little irritably, before asking again, "Have you seen Plucky recently?" Whisper really wasn't thinking straight. She soon answered, "Plucky? No. He left the park days ago." It wasn't until after she finished speaking she realized what she had just said, and she stood deathly still with widened eyes at that realization. Well, that's one way to spill the beans, isn't it? Exhaustion betrays everybody, I guess. 3, 2, 1. What? Fox shouted at the top of his voice. Quite suddenly, his mood that day had changed. I'm starting to get the feeling I shouldn't have told you that," Whisper spoke awkwardly. "Excuse me, Whisper. I have to go speak with my son and daughter," Fox said harshly, before turning the other way. "Fox, wait! Stop!" Whisper pleaded. "Don't be mad at them! I'm the one who said he should go if he wanted." "Why would you do that? You of all of us know what it's like out there," Fox reprimanded assertively. "And quite noticeably Charmer, Ranger, and Friendly have blindly lied to me." Before Whisper could voice another protest, Fox had took off. He was furious, and if he could, he would have scolded Plucky quite severely. But what he was most infuriated was that his own son and daughter and her mate had lied to him when they had reported back to him that Plucky had left the park. It didn't take him long before he found Charmer and Ranger, Friendly, and Russet. They were all by the pond, giving their cubs a swimming lesson. Fox's presence was immediately noted, but he spoke first, sternly and assertively. "Charmer, Ranger, Friendly, a word, please." The 3 foxes had their smiles swept from their muzzles, as Fox turned around and gestured rather forcefully to follow him to a secluded area away from the pond. "We are so busted," Friendly muttered worriedly. "Shh! We don't know what he wants," Charmer reassured. "Well, he looks stern, which can't be good," Ranger spoke pessimistically. Friendly quickly turned to Russet, as now she was left to look after the cubs alone momentarily. "I won't be too long. Hopefully. Will you keep an eye on them all?" Friendly said tenderly. "Of course, dear. And good luck, I guess." Russet replied, and both shared a quick, affectionate nuzzle. Russet turned her attention to the 7 adolescent fox cubs playing in the water, watching over them carefully as Charmer, Ranger, and Friendly walked off after Fox. They are going to get absolutely bollocked. They didn't go too far from the pond, but it was enough for the privacy that was going to be needed. Fox didn't intend to tell them right away that he knew they were lying to him. Instead, he would use his cunning to force them into owning up to their lie. "What is it, Father?" Charmer asked in her usual sweet and calming voice. Fox spoke as if there was nothing out of the ordinary. "I was going to see Plucky today, but he wasn't in his earth, nor has anyone else seen him. I imagine he's probably off with Dash somewhere, but no one has seen her around either." "Well, he was quite mad with you. Perhaps he's just keeping his distance. You know, till he calms down," Ranger explained. "And of course, Dash goes where he goes and vice versa." But, as we all know, they are far away from the park. Oh, Jiminy Christmas, this is going to involve a lot of shouting, isn't it? Probably. Just let him know I'd like to speak to him. I'm a little worried that no one's seen him. You know how Plucky is usually more sociable. Well, he can be quite independent too. Perhaps he's got more of his father in him than we knew, Charmer said softly. Okay. Of course, Plucky, as the son of Bold... Hi. I was just walking by someone who saw me reading. Of course, Plucky, as the son of Bold, would inherit some traits from his father, including his stubbornness, his pride, and his decision to leave the park. Shit. Indeed, Fox said, looking away, including leaving the park to explore the real world. No, I'm sure he wouldn't do that at all, he said sarcastically. With that last statement, all 3 of them knew they were found out. Even so, Friendly responded, though very awkwardly. "What? No. He wouldn't do that, Dad." "Liar, liar, fur on fire." Fox was quiet for a moment when he realized now there was no weight to their lie anymore. And he chastised them. "You really think I can be so easily fooled?" "Dad, come on. Why would we be trying to fool you?" "Drop the act!" Fox snapped, making them all jump. "Because I know you're lying. All 3 of you. Plucky's gone, hasn't he? He's left the park to follow that vixen he'd met, hasn't he?" "Father, we wanted to say something, but Plucky made us promise..." Charmer began to explain themselves. "How could you let him go?" Fox snapped loudly. "We tried to talk him out of it!" Ranger snapped back. "Yes, we did. But you know he's stubborn and he'd already made up his mind," Friendly backed him up. "Father, don't take it out on Ranger and Friendly. I'm the one who said Plucky should do what he felt." "Charmer, why would you do that?" Fox asked forcefully. "You don't know what it's like beyond the park boundaries because you've never been there. It's dangerous out there." The argument continued and escalated. The raised voices of the arguing foxes could be heard from the pond. It immediately caught Russet's attention, but all she could do was make sure the cubs didn't see or hear their parents' admonishment. She continued to watch over them playing in the water, all of them oblivious. Russet's attention was suddenly attracted to Whisper emerging rather hurriedly from the bushes. "Russet!" Whisper panted. "Where are they?" "Back there." Russet gestured in the direction of the verbal fracas. "I'd keep your distance, though. Fox is quite angry." "I know, and it's my fault," Whisper muttered, walking off. She had followed Fox in a vain attempt to call him off before the inevitable argument occurred. Her tiredness obviously slowed her down. As Whisper emerged through more shrubs, she became witness to the heated argument between Fox, Charmer, Ranger, and Friendly. "Fox, please stop this!" Whisper pleaded, interrupting and attempting to dissolve the squabble. Their attention was immediately brought to her arrival. "I'm also surprised at you, Whisper," Fox said to her harshly. "Fox, Plucky is my son." Whisper stood her ground defiantly, now attempting to reason with him. "I know you will help me, but I raised him by myself, and I know just about better than anyone that he was ready. And none of you can deny it that he's accomplished so much in his life already. He deserves to find a mate, which is exactly what he's done." "That may be, but did you take into consideration anyone else's thoughts before letting him go gallivanting off into the world? And not to mention abandoning the role of leadership that I entrusted him with." "Father, to be honest," Charmer interrupted quite irritably, "I could see why Plucky made us promise not to tell you, because he knew you'd react like this. Yes, I probably would have, but I would have understood eventually. What pains me more is that you had to lie to me and your mother." "What would you have us do, Dad? Tackle him? Force him to come back?" Friendly interrupted forcefully. "No, I just thought you'd all be a little more cautious about letting your nephew leave the safety of the park." Fox scolded again. "Don't you all remember what happened to Bold?" There was a moment of silence among them. Fox's expression suddenly went from angry to solemn, as did the others. They all briefly had their heads down to silently remorse, and Whisper looked away, hiding the tears forming in her eyes. "Father," Charmer softly broke the silence, "we all remember very well what happened to him. But Plucky is over twice his age when he left. He's not a young cub anymore, Dad, and you can't treat him as such," Friendly said calmly. "And we've all watched him grow up from just a cub. He's a grown fox now, and old enough to make his own decisions," Ranger commented serenely. "Not to mention he's probably smarter and braver than any of us," Charmer added on. "I can't deny that. But I just don't want to see him get hurt," Fox said solemnly. "I've already had to suffer outliving a son. I couldn't bear to think of outliving my grandson, too." "Father, you can't think like that. Do you really think we would have let him leave if we didn't think he was ready for it?" Charmer said softly. "I suppose not," Fox conceded, knowing they were right. His daughter always did have winning ways. She really was a charmer. He managed a small smile. "I know me and your mother didn't choose your name just because we liked it, Charmer." Charmer smiled back, and Fox gave her a quick fatherly nuzzle. "I assume then Plucky must have put one of you two in charge," Fox said, looking between Friendly and Ranger. "Actually, no. He made Charmer leader," Ranger stated. "Really?" Fox said, looking to Charmer, who was making a half smile. "Don't sound so surprised, Father," Charmer said calmly. "You sure you can handle it?" "I've seen you do it for years. I think I'll be all right," Charmer smiled. As the argument had now died down, the splashing of the fox cubs playing in the water could be heard from the pond. There was an abundance of laughs and giggles, although amongst them there was also Russet raising her voice. "Honestly, Those cubs, Friendly muttered cheerily, as he, Charmer, and Ranger looked back towards the pond. Go on, Fox said with a small smile of pride. Go give Russet some relief, you three. Ranger and Friendly immediately left to go help Russet keep the cubs under control, swiftly heading back to the pond. Charmer stayed a moment before she left. Thank you, Father, she said softly. And don't worry, I'm sure Plucky will be just fine. With that last speech of reassurance, Charmer went off to join them, leaving Fox and Whisper alone. Fox, I'm sorry. I should have been more cautious about letting him go, Whisper said remorsefully. Actually, Whisper, I think it's quite brave of you, Fox smiled at her. I know how much Plucky means to you. It must have been difficult to let him go. It was. They're all right, though. Plucky isn't young anymore, and we can't keep treating him like a cub. Hard to believe, really. Feels like only yesterday he was just a little cub. Fox smiled in reminiscence of seeing his first grandson's youth. Though I do admit, somehow I knew something like this would happen eventually. Whisper was silent. She knew well what Fox meant when he said that, considering who Plucky's father was. Whisper knew better than anyone how much her son shared the traits of her lost mate. Both she and Fox shared the same thought at that moment. I just hope the world beyond here treats him better than it did his father. Fox broke the uncomfortable silence. You don't have to remind me of that, Fox, Whisper said quietly, releasing a small tear. Oh, I do hope Plucky is all right. Me too. They all went their separate ways for the day after that, all with the hope that Plucky was just fine. The news was quickly spread around the Farthing Wood community, and around the rest of White Deer Park of Plucky and Dash's disappearance. When Fox had told Vixen, she surprisingly understood, yet she couldn't help but worry about their grandson. They all knew Plucky and Dash so well, being as sociable as they were, yet everyone was optimistic about their chances in the real world. Plucky and Dash were adventurous and courageous, but also cautious and intelligent. And of course, Plucky had clearly inherited the legendary cunning of his father and grandfather. However, both Plucky and Dash were also arrogant, and arrogance is a dangerous trait when wandering the real world. Fox knew this too well. Many of the animals did. And if they all knew then the dire situation that Plucky and Dash, Plucky in particular, was in that day, and that night, all the farthing animals would have slept a lot less peacefully. Yeah, because of what happened in Chapter 5. But don't worry, guys. Plucky is okay, and he still has Dash with him, and he's found Jinx, now called Scarlet, and they have 4 new friends. Perry the Falcon, Bolt the Hare, who's now Dash's mate, and Woody and Jester, the Squirrel Twin Brothers. Sorry. So, after this, it will be Chapter 11. And I hope you will all enjoy that when it comes out next time. But until then, I'm the Masked Ranger, saying, keep moving forward, always keep that smile, and remember the oath. Excelsior!